So, since the Oscars happened last Sunday, I have been reading a lot of very interesting things about what happened and people's perceptions, particularly of Seth MacFarlane and the writing of the hosting of the show. And one of the things I read recently that particularly floored me was a man's discussion of this on his WordPress blog. And I was reading this because I was sort of curious. The title of it was, Should I Be Offended? And so I was like, well, maybe this is worth a read. And it was, actually. It was really interesting. And this guy was talking about the fact that he personally wasn't offended watching the Oscars and didn't find any of it particularly sexist or racist. And on the one hand, he was very open for discussion about the subject, so I was like, well, at least this is someone who's open-minded. And on the other hand, I was floored to the extent that I'm pretty sure my jaw was on the floor while I was reading this article, because I was just like, wow. So I think the biggest thing that I personally found offensive, like right off the bat, were the jokes that Seth MacFarlane made, and then the boob song. And everybody's talked about the boob song, and, people have been like, well, these female actresses participated in it, including some of the women that he talked about, and if they're not offended, we shouldn't be. And I'm like, well, on the one hand, those women choosing to engage in that sort of discourse, that's 100% their choice, and I don't agree with it, but they are allowed to make that choice to be participatory in that sort of exhibition, for lack of a better word. However, as many very notable bloggers have talked about, a lot of the scenes in the boob song were rape scenes, and those actresses' boobs were seen as part of a scene of rape. And rape is something that is not unique to women, but it primarily happens to women. And so making a song about how we saw your boobs, and for 4 of those actresses, it was in a scene of rape that happened to a real person in some of those cases, is 100% sexist, because nobody is going to run around. First of all, very few movies, if any, none that I have seen, which doesn't mean there are none, just none that I have seen, depict men being raped. Even if that were shown, you would never see a man's penis, and no one would ever think to degrade a man that way. So the fact that it's okay to degrade a woman that way for having seen her boobs in a rape scene is 100% sexist. Like, I'm sorry, but there's no room for alternative interpretations there. And the other thing really about the boob song, for me, because that is obviously a very serious consideration in terms of the boob song, but the other thing for me was that nobody would make jokes like this about men. Like, nobody's going to make a joke that I've seen your ass, I've seen your penis, I've seen any part of your body. And it's not because men show themselves less on screen, although I have to tell you, while I have seen women's boobs on screen, I think I've seen one man's penis. Maybe. I'm not actually sure. The frequency in which we see women's breasts, which should just be another part of a woman's body, but in reality are sexualized because of pornography and just the general male gaze about women, the instances that we see women's breasts on screen far outrange any time that we see portions of men's bodies that are sexualized. And so that in and of itself is a sexist act and a sexist perception of women. And then to make a joke about it, or to make a joke about how we didn't do that on the Oscars, but you actually still did it, is extremely sexist. And just because you took the song out doesn't mean it didn't go away. I still had to watch it. I was still offended. I was still not amused. And I'm sitting there watching this with my parents, and I'm just, like, embarrassed that this is a comedian of my generation. That I'm just like, wow, comedy has taken a nice turn here, folks. And the thing about it is that I understand that the Academy was trying to attract a younger male audience. I understand that. I get it, and I understand that they are trying to sort of revamp the Oscars and make it more appealing to a larger crowd. All of that is fine. I have absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, by choosing this particular commentator and this particular script, the Oscars managed to alienate the vast majority of the people who do watch the Oscars, many of whom are women. And I'm not saying that all women were offended, as I was, but I would say that a remarkable number of women found that to be at least somewhat, if not highly offensive. And so you've just alienated an entire portion of your audience, the very significant portion of your audience. So to cater to the young men audience, you've alienated everybody else, which is just a stupid tactical maneuver, if absolutely nothing else. So there's that. And then I think, really the hits just kept coming, but the next two things I'll talk about were the two things that really stood out to me. And the first of those is the Django Unchained, Rihanna, and Chris Brown reference. And I, full disclosure, do not like Chris Brown. I think that he is a pretty horrible excuse for a human being without actually knowing the man. So I realize I'm judging him only based on media, and that's somewhat unfair. But everything I do and have read about him, suggests that he's a really shitty human being. And so Rihanna's choice to be back with him is absolutely her own decision, and while it probably wouldn't be a decision I would make, I can never know. And she should be supported in whatever decision she wants to make, and if she needs to leave that relationship again, she should be supported to do that, or she should be supported to stay if it's working for her. So that's my take on Rihanna and Chris Brown. And then more to the point is that it's never, ever, ever, ever okay to make a joke about domestic violence. I realize that that's a common thing for comedians to talk about, and it is not fucking funny. I don't understand how to make it any more clear, but domestic violence and rape are not fucking funny, and they never will be unless you're Wanda Sykes talking about how you should just be able to leave your pussy at home so that nobody can rape you. That is the sole instance in which I have laughed at a rape joke. Every other time rape and domestic violence have been the butt of a joke, I'm just like, you've got to be shitting me right now. Are you fucking kidding me? Literally shaking with rage at jokes like that. So, and no one is ever going to make a joke about a man being assaulted. It's not funny for a man to be assaulted, but it's somehow funny for a woman to be assaulted. I'm sorry. What? For so many reasons. You can be a chivalrous man, which I have mixed feelings about, and you can still think it's wrong to hit a woman. You can be a progressive man and still think it's wrong to hit a woman. Or anyone. Frankly, it's not just women that it's wrong to hit. It is wrong to hit anybody. But especially when you are often the more submissive person in a relationship, and that is what is expected of you by society, how dare you hit someone in that instance? Unless you are in a special sort of relationship in which that is acceptable and you and your partner have an agreement, which was not my understanding of Chris Brown and Rihanna. However, who knows? So that aside, it's never ever okay to hit someone, and it's never okay to make a joke about it. And again, no one's going to make a joke about a man being assaulted unless it's oh, he's so whipped. But I'm just kind of even that's not okay, because then you're teasing the man for, that is less common, but that is still not okay. It's rude, and it's still making the man into a feminine position, thereby saying that the feminine is bad, ergo, sexism. And the Chris Brown hitting Rihanna joke in and of itself is sexist because, as I've already covered, that would happen to me. So, finally, the joke that I truly just was the straw that broke the camel's back, which maybe it shouldn't have been. Maybe there should have been something along the lines that I was just fuck it, I'm turning this off. Which really would have been a good protest, however I didn't. Was the joke about women giving themselves the flu to fit into their dresses. And I was like, are you kidding me? Between that comment and the boob song, clearly women are only capable of being available for the male gaze, and therefore we should exactly tailor ourselves to the male gaze, which expects tiny-waisted, big-breasted, large-assed women. And I'm like, do you see very many women like that wandering around? Because I don't. And who are you to tell me what my body should look like? I don't tell you what you should look like. There is such a thing as a female gaze. I'm not going to deny that. However, it is significantly less prevalent than the male gaze, which dictates that women are only appreciated for as objects of a gaze. And again, I'm not saying that women don't say, oh, I'm going to go see Magic Mike just because I want to see Channing Tatum's junk and his abs and all of that. Like, that happens. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not denying that that is a thing that happens. However, it happens far more to women, and it would never happen on the stage at the Oscars. All of my point here is that the Oscars continually and repeatedly demeaned women. That's to say nothing of the racist remarks that were said, the rape culture remarks that were said. The hits just kept coming primarily towards women, either women of color or white women. It matters, but the upshot is that women as a whole were targeted and verbally assaulted during this presentation. And this is a presentation that I watched as a kid. Like, I watched the Oscars as a kid. And maybe most kids don't do that anymore. Whatever. But regardless, some kids probably do watch the Oscars. And even if you're not a kid, even if you're my age and you're watching the Oscars, you're still internalizing this sort of ideology that women are worthless, that women are only there to be looked at, that their acting talent or their brain or whatever is worth nothing. And to see that sort of sexism, both in an event that is often so geared towards women, is appalling. And it's equally appalling because really the Oscars should be about leveling the playing field and recognizing the incredible actresses and the incredible achievements of those actresses, and making it a safe place for there to be more female producers, more female directors, more female screenwriters. And instead, it's making it a place where women feel targeted and feel like they are worthless. And I mean, really, I was appalled and frustrated and angry and embarrassed. I mean, I couldn't exactly tell you why I was embarrassed. I don't know if it was because I was sitting with my parents while they were listening to this garbage, or if it was because I was embarrassed as a woman. But regardless, it was just a horrible display of awful masculinity and sexism that goes along with that. So that's my take on the Oscars, and I would hope that people will keep talking about this. And as I already said on my Tumblr, I encourage people to give feedback. If you like the Oscars, I still encourage you to give feedback. If you thought this was the best show you've ever seen, absolutely. Tell the Oscars that's what you think. I don't agree with you, but I think feedback is excellent. And I believe in participatory government, so I believe in calling everyone and talking to everyone and sharing your experience. I, who was very offended, shared that with the Oscars. And keep talking about it because it's not a thing that's going away, and this is just a very prevalent and pertinent example of sexism.